Ohayo minasan, welcome back. We are once again playing Our Life Beginning and Always. I have learned some details from last time, but we're going to continue where we left off, doing a bunch of things in step 1. We're probably not going to finish step 1 this episode. I'm only going to do about 30 minutes, but we're going to try to get through, I think, at least 3 moments, probably. I will probably do every moment in step 1 and then let you guys choose what we do for step 2. At the moment, step 3's DLC is not available and step 4 is not available either. So, I have played through the whole game because I was too addicted yesterday. The voice names will come back. That will be a thing. They said within the next week or so. They didn't want to put it in there at the start because they don't have all the names for all the voices yet completely done, which, okay. And they also didn't want people who didn't want the option to have to download the file for that option. Once again, I'm not 100% okay with their excuse for it, as I feel that the voice name was definitely a feature about the game that is kind of one of the big things that makes it very special, makes it very unique, because your character is customizable that way. That is something that not many games are gonna do, and I understand there's 600 names, but just because someone didn't join in the Kickstarter campaign doesn't mean that their name might not be in that 600, or that they shouldn't get the chance to enjoy that part from the very beginning. Your game is a first impression, and the first impression is I was wanting it to be in there. So I'm glad that they answered that. I'm glad that was answered on Kickstarter, but it's still a little disappointing. Anyway, let's actually get into the game. Oh, that is not... Okay, hold on. That is not the file we were supposed to... Look at that! That's the wrong file! That's my other file. This is where we left off. Okay. So, let's do... Let's do sleepover.
Okay.
Alright, kids, we're done with dinner. Come to the table. Your stomach grumbled right on time. As if it had heard your mom's words, you halted your game and looked over. Mom was almost done setting up the table. She was walking around the mahogany wood in the process of putting down cutlery. I'm going to stumble over every word during this, aren't I? That's gonna be the thing about our life. I'm gonna stumble over every single word. Mommy was still in the kitchen, humming under her breath as she turned off the stove and put empty pots in the sink to wash. From beside you, Lizzie stirred, uncrossing her legs and standing up. She stretched her arms above her head. Finally! I'm ready to eat! Did I change her voice? I can't tell if I changed her voice. This is why I just need to, massively record things. Otherwise, I change voices, and I don't know what voice I'm giving to what character. Then she cast a shy glance in your direction. You recognize that look. Sly, not shy. That's my bad. Last one to the table is a rotten egg! I haven't! But it was too late. Lizzie had already bolted towards the kitchen. Ah! I'm throwing a cushion at you! Darn you! Grabbing one of the cushions from the sofa, you threw it towards her. It hit her in the back of the legs, but it was too soft to do anything of real consequence, and she merely brushed the attack off with a scowl. It was a short distance to the kitchen table. Lizzie managed to get there easily enough, slapping a hand over the wood. Mom moved just before Lizzie could bump into her. With an exasperated sigh, she resumed her work. I win again! You didn't win because you were racing by yourself. Because you cheated. I'm not gonna say, okay, you won. That's a stupid answer. It's one of these two. Which one do you think, Because I didn't even start moving, but you cheated. But you were racing by yourself. No, I told you we were both racing. You can't tell me we're racing. I have to agree to it. That's the point. God damn it, Lizzie. You're just so slow. I wasn't racing and you know it. That sounds like something a rotten egg would say. Lizzie grinned, her hands on her hips as she looked over your shoulder. Cove, you can be the tiebreaker. Was that a real race I totally won? You blinked. You hadn't noticed what he had been doing during this little event, which wasn't much. You spotted Cove still on the floor. His legs were crossed beneath him, and the arm of his cat with the cast resting in his lap. He looked at the two of you with a slight frown. It felt sort of strange to see him still here so late. Tonight, Cove had come over to your house for a sleepover. Your mom's and his dad had planned it a few days ago. You weren't surprised. You had begged your moms to invite Cove over one day. They promised that they would. Now they had made good on their word. You looked forward to it since the moment you found out. You'd even helped Mom search the storage room for a sleeping bag and extra bedding to prepare for his visit. Cove pursed his lips at Lizzie's question, but he didn't respond. Maybe he was planning on ignoring her? Not that Lizzie would make it easy.
Come on.
Well, did I win or what?
No.
Oh, Cove, you adorable boy. Oh, you really adorable boy. Oh, isn't Cove the best? What? I don't think you won. How come? It's not my fault Blue's slow. Cheating's cheating. Cheaters never win. I am being very bad at Cove's voice. I can already tell that. I'm sorry.
You always pick her side.
Why wouldn't he always pick my side? He's my friend, not your friend. We're siblings. We don't have to have the same friends. Cove snuck a shy peek at you before answering her. I pick her side and she picks mine. You're a couple of rotten eggs then. That's enough. Nobody here is a loser or rotten egg. You're each farm fresh. Which is a sentence I never thought I'd say. Not what I meant to do. I hate that button click does that.
All right.
Now listen to Mom and come sit at the table for dinner, all three of you. You and Lizzie obeyed, sitting across from each other at the edge of the table. Lizzie blew a raspberry at you while Mom turned her back. Oh, real mature! Your parents brought the last of the food, and then they took seats further down the table instead of sitting right next to you and Lizzie. Only Cove was left out. He had stood up from his spot on the floor, but he hadn't made a move towards the kitchen. Cove, you can sit too. Da 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 dots. Cove doesn't know what to say, so he says da da dot. I don't know why I'm singing a song to say da 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 dot. Sorry, I'm alone in a room playing a game, and I'm talking to myself. I gotta give some enjoyment to this. Slowly, he eyed the 4 seats that were left. Thanks to the new seating arrangement your parents chose, one free chair was beside you, another next to Lizzie, and the last 2 were on the other side where your moms were sitting. Sit next to me? I mean, why wouldn't you? But I'm gonna be like, you better sit next to me, buddy. Cove's gaze met your brown eyes. You smiled. Briefly, he grinned back. He walked over and pulled out the chair next to yours and sat down. You were glad he wanted to sit with you. He just needed to know it was okay. Now that everyone was situated, Mommy began to pass out the plates.
Okay.
Take in, kids. I cooked a little bit of everything for dinner tonight. Be sure not to avoid all the vegetables.
Ugh.
Yes, Mom. Each person at the table served themselves, except for one. Cove... Oh, sorry about that sound. He fidgeted with his hands clamped on top of his knees. He didn't seem very comfortable doing stuff in someone else's house. One dish seemed to have his eye at least. That's a pineapple chicken. Want to try some? Not really. Sorry. By then, your moms had noted that Cove still had nothing on his plate as well. Do you not like any of the food, honey?
Well,
Maybe he hasn't tried Hawaiian food before. He hasn't? Wow! I mean, why in the world would you be shocked that somebody hasn't tried Hawaiian food? Like, really? Please don't talk with your mouth full, Lizzie. Lizzie swallowed the bite she was eating and then she spoke again. He should try it now. She turned to Cove dramatically. Unless you want to shrink, that's what happens if you miss a meal. Elizabeth, that's not true and you know it. Cove squirmed under all the attention. He fidgeted with the fork between his fingers. I've had some things, just not any of this.
Oh, shoot.
I knew I should have asked your dad what your favorite foods were. Why did you not? Like, why did you not? Ask his dad before he slept over and ate dinner here. It's all right, Lonnie. Maybe he'll find a new favorite today. You weren't so sure about that. Cove didn't look like he was going to be trying the food anytime soon. Which is sad. Give me your plate. Cove was a little confused by your request, but he handed it to you anyway. You took the plate from him and piled only the best foods on it. Obviously, I should know. Obviously, my character would know the best foods. They're the ones that are also on my own plate. He watched you work intently, his good hand shoved underneath his leg. When you were satisfied with the amount on his plate, you returned it. You should like some of these.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Good job.
That was very kind of you, Blue. You sat up straighter at the praise. At first, Cove poked at the food. Clearly, he was apprehensive to eat something new, but he took a few exploratory bites. Exploratory.
Right?
I'm not gonna say any words correctly today, am I? It's good, huh? Isn't it? You don't have to keep asking. He still speared more meat with his fork and ate it, chewing thoughtfully. It's not bad. Mommy grinned at his words, satisfied, even though it wasn't exactly a glowing recommendation. Oh my goodness. Lizzie wasn't as mollified. You're so weird. And you're so weird as well, Lizzie. I'm giving you such an obnoxious accent. Don't be mean to your friends. He's not Lizzie's friend. He's my friend. We're not friends. Oh. Mommy floundered in the face of Cove's blunt honesty. You weren't surprised by Cove's declaration. The more you got to know him, the more you realized he wasn't the type of kid to keep his opinions to himself. She wasn't easy to get along with all the time, though Cove didn't make much of an effort either. At least you two were definitely friends. You knew that without a doubt. The way you felt about Lizzie didn't change it. When you gave Cove a look, he returned it with a smile, confirming your thoughts. Your mommy looked at Mom and only got a shrug.
No.
Elizabeth, don't call someone weird. There's no such thing as a weird person and a non-weird person. They're just different perspectives. It's not a nice thing to say to somebody, anyone, but Pam. Mommy tried to whisper exclusively to Mom. Her attempt to make it audible over the sound of clanking silverware meant you caught the quiet words anyway. They're not friends, he said so. As parents, we can only try, and sometimes we fail. Not all kids will be thick as thieves. Now, less talking and more eating, kids. You need to clean up and start winding down for bed soon. But Mom! No buts. We've talked about this. Your bedtime will be moved back in a few years. For now, you don't get to stay up late. Thank you, Mom. Lizzie sulked, muttering under her breath about how it wasn't right. Why isn't it right? Just because you're 10 years old doesn't mean that you get any kind of privileges over myself. You laughed at Mom's phrasing. You couldn't contain your snorts. Something the matter, Blue? Mom said no buts. Lizzie scoffed and rolled her eyes, unimpressed by such crude words. Mommy snickered with you, however. That's right, no buts allowed here. You'll have to get rid of yours. No, I need it! I need it! I need my butt! We can't get rid of the butts! The two of you continued to chuckle, and Cove even cracked a smile. Look how cute he looks when he's happy! He looks so cute. Children, I'm surrounded by children. The rest of dinner passed uneventfully. Cove was silent for most of it, even when you nudged him and tried to get him to talk. All too soon, the table was cleared, the games in the living room were put away, and you were all steered into your bedrooms. Blah, 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 blah. Bleh. Mom finished tucking you in and kissed your brow just as Mommy poked her head in the room. All ready for lights off, you two? You were lying comfortably in your bed, the blanket hiked up under your armpits. You could kick it off later if it got too hot. Yes. Mom had set up a sleeping bag on the floor for Cove just beside your bed. He had already wiggled inside. You nodded to the both of you. You nodded for the both of you in response to Mommy's question.
Good night.
Perfect. I'll go say goodnight to Lizzie then. Mom tweaked your nose, chuckled when you squawked in annoyance, and left. Mommy took her place, sitting at the edge of your bed.
Sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams, sweetie. She pressed a soft kiss to your forehead. You giggled as a strand of her hair fell forward and tickled you. Mommy smiled down affectionately at you and then moved her attention to Cove, who watched from his spot on the floor. Do you need anything before falling asleep, honey? What does your dad do? Sometimes he picks me up and lifts me really high and he shakes his hands like he's gonna let go, but he catches me again. He keeps doing that until sometimes he does drop me on my bed. Or other times when he lowers me down, we pretend I'm crashing. Like I'm crashing. Cove had become pretty excited when talking about the nightly ritual he and his dad shared. He seemed to realize how animated he was and bashfully quieted. That doesn't sound right. But I don't want to do that here. Oh, how fun! Though I think you're right, it might not be a good idea to do that tonight. The sleeping bag might not be a soft landing. If there's anything else, you can always ask me or Blue's other mom. But I'm the nicer one, just don't tell her that. She laughed good-naturedly and stood up.
Take care.
Sleep well, Cove. Night. Leaning against the door jamb, she rested a hand on the light switch and looked to you. Good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. With a last smile, Mommy turned off the lights and stepped out, closing the bedroom door behind her. You listened for her footsteps to fade as she walked down the hallway. But even as the sound just vanished, your eyes stayed open. It was just you and Cove now. You hardly knew what to do with yourself. Cove? Yeah? I'm glad we met. Cove was silent for a few moments before you heard his voice again through the darkness. Me too. Dot dot dot. You started when Cove sighed deeply. You turned your head to look in his direction. In the dark, you could only see a faint outline of a lump under the covers. Cove? What's wrong? I can't sleep. Why not? He shifted, or at least you thought he did. You couldn't see anything since your eyes were still adjusting to the dark, but you heard his sleeping bag rustle. I want to be in my bed. Oh. Cove sat up. Your eyes had gotten used to the low light level, so you could see him better. He got out of the sleeping bag and wobbled towards your side table and pulled open the top drawer. What is it? I'm getting my glasses. You sat up too, watching as he reached inside. He paused for a second and then pulled his hand out, instead of his glasses though he was holding a book. Cove turned it around in his hands, trying to figure out the proper orientation for it. You knew without reading the title which one it was. That was one your moms would read to you. It was special. Thought you were looking for your glasses. I was, and I felt this. It looks cool. The compliment he afforded your special book had you grinning, your confusion forgotten. It is really cool.
Oh?
Oh yeah, what's it about? It's a story about a squire who wants to become a knight, and there's magic. Does it have mermaids? No, but I love the main character because the squire's really brave and funny. Let's do that. But they're stuck working for this knight who's rude to them. Nobody believes they can be a knight, but that doesn't stop the squire, so they go on an adventure to show the king they're worthy. Cove looked excited by your words. He flipped the book over and focused on the backside summary. His interest was only spurring your own. You were reminded of the hours you spent hearing the tales. No matter how many times you read it or had it read to you, you were still entertained by the story and the pictures inside. You glanced out the window. The moon was high in the sky. You wanted to read the book with Cove. You climbed out of bed and padded over to the side table. You opened it and rummaged around, pushing aside stuffed toys and crayons. Cove called out to you in a confused whisper. What are you doing? You'll see. You let out a quiet cry of victory when you found what you were looking for. You jumped back into the bed before any hidden boogeyman could catch you unaware. Cove continued to watch as you wiggled your way beneath the blanket you discarded earlier. You pull it up over your head. Come on, check it out. Bring the book too. Not that one. Sorry. After a minute, the bed dipped as Cove got in, and then the blanket shifted. You fiddled with the flashlight in your grip, feeling for the switch. With a click, a small space flooded with a bright light. Cove spluttered, putting a hand up to shield himself from the beam. Move it somewhere else. Sorry. You tilted the flashlight so it was shining down towards the floor of your blanket cave, away from Cove's sensitive eyes. Is that better? Yeah. Now we can read, and my moms won't know. I do this all the time. When mom or mommy check on me and I have to hide everything under the blanket, but I haven't been caught yet before. Do you want to try? Cove nodded, pleased with his straightforward response. You placed a book between you and flipped it open to the first page. Meanwhile, he laid down on his belly and shuffled closer, picking up the flashlight to shine it on the pages. His face was illuminated with a warm glow. You mirrored his position, leaning in so you could see the book better. Your foreheads nearly brushed until you shuffled back a comfortable distance. You loved it when Mommy read to you. Why not read as loud as you dared this time of night? You didn't even need to study the page for long. There was once a squire who dreamed of knighthood, all they wanted was to do good. Cove was taken aback by the way you began to recite the words by heart. You even pronounced knighthood properly, a word which had given you grief in the past. His reaction encouraged you to keep going. Soon you got to an exciting part, the squire and the dragon's first meeting. The squire walked up to the fearsome dragon, their borrowed sword in one hand and a torch in the other. Her red scales danced in the light like flickering flames. Could you say the dragon's lines? Do you need to get your glasses? No, my head hurts if I don't wear my glasses for a while. I can kind of see things all right, but I don't know any voices. That's okay, it's fun anyway. Let me just... Cove read the page, his mouth moving silently with the words. Eventually he nodded to himself and spoke them aloud. Who goes there? Roared the dragon. Who dares enter my cave? It was your turn. You went into the squire's famous speech. The next time you looked up from the page, your gaze landed right on Cove. Look how cute he is! He's being adorable! His eyes were following the text, a soft smile lighting up his features. A lock of his hair fell into his field of vision, but he gave it no notice. He was lost in the story. You started when Cove caught you watching him. He raised a questioning eyebrow. What? Nothing. Cove shot you a strange look, but he went back to the book. You did too, even as your eyelids started to droop. When your eyes opened again, your bedroom was pitch black and silent. Your head was smushed in your pillow, your pajamas were sticking to you, and your mouth was dry. Now let's go back to that. Slowly, you raised yourself onto your elbows, you yawned, the back of your throat twinging as you did so. You rolled onto your side to sit up in bed, playing to get water from the kitchen when you saw a dark shape towering above you. You froze, then you remembered you weren't alone in your room that night. Cove, that you?
Yeah.
You shifted and felt something cylindrical press against your thigh. You fumbled for it. The familiar weight of the flashlight pressed into your palm. You turned it on. Cove blinked at you, looking exhausted. He was in his normal clothes again, shoes and everything. His pajama pants were left on the floor, abandoned. His sleeping bag was in a similar state. What is it? Can't sleep. I keep waking up. Did you have a bad dream? He shook his head from side to side. No, I just can't sleep. It's weird here. You frowned. You helped your mom's redecorate it only a few months back. I like my room. It's not that it's bad. I just always want to sleep in my bed, in my room. That made things a little clearer. It wasn't anything you'd done. Cove couldn't sleep in a new place. You wondered how long it took for Cove's bedroom in his new house to not be weird to him. Probably a while. I'm gonna go. What? That shook off the last of your drowsiness. He was gonna walk outside back to his own house, this time of night, all by himself? Cove, you can't do that! Don't look at me like that, Mr. Angry Pants! He noted your shocked expression and looked at you with resolve. My dad will let me in, and I've gone outside late before, and I have to go. You don't have to. I'll come with you.
Why?
Why? I can get there myself, and then you'd have to go all the way back here from my house. I want to stay together more. I gotta make sure nothing happens to you. Cove stared at you for a long time. You cocked your head, confused. What? He didn't answer your question. Instead, he broke eye contact, busying himself with picking up his pajamas. Okay, you can go with me. Are you getting the rest of your stuff too, like your toothbrush? I don't know where my mom's put it all. No, just this. You could understand that. He didn't really need anything right now, and he could always pick up his things tomorrow. Cove visited your house during the day all the time. You grabbed the flashlight and waited by the door. Soon, Cove joined you, and the two of you crept into the hallway as silently as you could. You sidestepped the loose floorboard at the end of the hallway, alerting Cove to it as well. Apart from that, you had no problems making it to the front door. Everyone was in their rooms, so the rest of the house was abandoned. It was brighter outside. Here, some of your other neighbors had lights coming through their windows. Still, you felt better with your flashlight turned on. You pointed it in the direction you were walking. There was no sound apart from the chirping of crickets and the crunch of some loose sand that got all the way up the street from the beach. You thought back to your unlocked front door and hoped one of your moms didn't wake up. If they locked it or checked in on you, or both, you'd be in a lot of trouble. No! Obviously we'll be in a lot of trouble, Sherlock. We are literally escaping our home to bring Cove back to his home. Surprisingly, it was Cove who broke the deep silence. This was my first sleepover. Really? I had sleepovers before. Sometimes I'll go to Grandma and Grandpa's house. Shiloh slept over a few times too, and other stuff. Cove remained quiet. The silence stretched between you, but it didn't feel awkward right now. You didn't feel the need to break it immediately. How was it, or is it? It's not bad. I liked reading your book. You did? I kinda thought you weren't having fun. You didn't really say anything when we were eating. I didn't know what to say. Oh. Now you were the only one who didn't know what to say, so you said nothing. You just lit the path ahead. The two of you kept walking side by side, your shadows stretching across the concrete. In almost no time at all, you arrived. Cove's house loomed over you, the windows dark. Mr. Holden must be sleeping, just like everyone else in your own family. Are you sure your dad's gonna open the door? Yeah, he wakes up real easily. As if to demonstrate, he rang the doorbell. A couple minutes passed, and you wondered if Cove was wrong. Then the front door unlocked and cracked open, and out came his dad. Mr. Holden wasn't wearing all his clothes. His hair wasn't up in a ponytail like normal either. You felt a little bad to disturb him when he was definitely had not been expecting anybody. Blah, 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 blah. His eyes had been narrowed to tired slits, yet they opened wide when he saw you and Cove. Kids, what in the world are you doing? Everything okay? I couldn't sleep. Cove said my room is weird. Mr. Holden blinked, his features still twisted in panic. Then he closed his eyes and let out a deep breath. Right, well, That's a shame. What's done is done. Come on inside, son. We can talk about what happened in the morning. Okay. Cove yawned while accepting the terms without complaint. Thank you for dropping him off, Blue. I think you'll have to be a part of the conversation tomorrow, but we'll deal with what to do next time. Now let me walk you back. It's not safe for you to be out this late by yourself. He moved to step past you, but you shook your head. I'll be fine, Mr. Holden. My house is right there, and I have a flashlight. Mr. Holden remained where he was, his brows furrowed, and placed a hand on Cove's shoulder blade. Then I'll stand right here. Cove and I will be your lookouts. We'll close our door once you've made it back inside. You nod your head at the compromise. Have a good night. Take care. Mr. Holden waved you off, and as you turned, your eyes met Cove, still standing beside his dad. His lips turned up at the corners. He spoke in an almost whisper.
Bye.
Bye, Blue. Thanks for coming. Flashlight clutched in your hand, you jogged back over to your home. You did feel better knowing Cove and his dad were watching to make sure nothing happened. Once you got to your front door, you glanced over to see the two waiting. You waved. Faintly, you saw Cove wave back. You quietly closed the door behind you, smiling to yourself. Then you tiptoed to your bedroom. The flashlight was returned to your drawer in its rightful place. Although Cove had to go back home in the end, you still considered the sleepover to be quite a success. You did hope that next time he'd be able to stay the whole night whenever next time came along. The next morning, you were woken up by the sound of Mom's voice and a soft shake on your shoulder. Blue, wake up! It's time to get up and at 'em! The sun was peeking through your curtains and you rubbed your eyes as they adjusted to the new light. Cove's already out of bed? You blinked at her for a moment, confused, until you caught the empty sleeping bag on the ground and remembered what had happened during the night. But I didn't see him out there. I wonder where he's gotten off to so early. You hesitated, giving Mom a look with your mouth hanging half open as your mind processed what to tell her.
Everything okay?
I couldn't sleep. Cove couldn't sleep. He said my room was weird. What? Where is Cove now? Did he sleep on the couch? Mom was still looking at you expectantly, and you started to explain what had happened. You were interrupted by Mommy calling downstairs saying Mr. Holden was at the door. You could tell by the way Mom's forehead crinkled that she was even more concerned. When she turned to head downstairs, you pulled on the covers and jumped out of bed to follow her. Cliff, how are you? Mom joined Mommy at the door while you hovered at the bottom of the stairs, peeked around the corner. You saw Cove's dad standing just outside, a sheepish smile on his face. He was alone, and you wondered if Cove was alright. I don't want to alarm you both, but Cove showed up back home in the middle of the night, and he wasn't alone. He rubbed the back of his neck anxiously. He must have felt bad about sharing the news. Mr. Holden kind of reminded you of Cove in that moment. Your moms exchanged a matching pair of surprised looks, Mommy gasping and covering her mouth with a hand. The two of them looked your way. You quickly ducked back behind the wall. The boy and I made sure Blue got back safe, but Cove wouldn't tell me what happened. I thought you might have a little more insight. We didn't hear anything during the night. I noticed Cove was gone just minutes before you arrived. Is he alright? We're so sorry. We'll be having a talk with Blue about this for sure. Mr. Holden pulled his lips into a tight smile and held up his hands as if to say it wasn't their fault. He's fine. I just wanted to find out more before having another talk with him. I should have known he wasn't ready to spend the night at someone else's house. You felt bad for Mr. Holden. He looked so sad. They discussed the event for a little bit longer, your parents promising to call him if they found out more. And when Mr. Holden finally said goodbye, you heard Mom calling your name. Immediately you panicked, wondering if you should find somewhere to hide. There was a growing sense of dread in your stomach as you were about to get in a lot of trouble. Your mom's look found you eventually, though, and you were relieved to see they didn't look very angry. They did, however, look very, very worried.
That's ridiculous.
What were you thinking, Blue? Why didn't you tell us something was wrong? Why'd you leave the house? You toed the ground in front of you, refusing to look at them. I'm sure you were just trying to help him, but you know it's dangerous to go out at night without a parent, don't you? Nodding your head, you couldn't do much more than listen to your parents explain how dangerous it had been for you and Cove to wander out of his house on your own. I don't want that. Personally, you didn't think it was bad since Cove only lived across the road, but you didn't tell your moms that. You were already in enough trouble as it was, so when they asked you to promise to tell them something like that next time, you nodded your head in agreement. Even though it was a little unfair, you accepted the punishment as you weren't allowed to have any sleepovers until you could prove to your moms that you were responsible enough. You were determined to show them that you could be trusted. When you saw Cove next, he was sorry you had gotten in trouble. After hearing a similar lecture, Cove got away with a warning from his dad. Mr. Holden felt the negative experience was enough already, and Cove didn't need any additional punishments. In the end, the two of you and your parents were eventually able to move past the ill-fated sleepover. It had been a learning experience, according to the adults. You could accept that. There were definitely things you had learned from it. And hopefully one day you and Cove would finally be able to have a successful sleepover. There we go. We did sleepover. Let's do sandcastles. And that'll be the last one. And then we'll end this episode off and we'll start another episode. Cove wasn't able to do many things that summer. When him and Shiloh sat on the shoreline one bright morning, you could tell he wanted to be in the water. But there was no way he'd be swimming anytime soon, not with his cast. The waves washed a single shell to the shore, glittering in blue, another reminder of places he couldn't go. From what you'd heard about Cove's old life so far, in tiny pieces and fragments, you could tell he'd do anything to be able to get the cast off. Like, make a pact with a witch or something, just to get it off his arm. You thought about how his summer last year must have been totally different from this, with his old home and his mom and dad. Now he was here, with you and Shiloh and Lizzie and everyone else, and he couldn't even go into the sea. This town wasn't bad, it had all your favorite things in it, but sitting there on the same beach you'd grown up on, you could understand that not everybody else felt the same way about Sunset Bird as you did. You watched him from the corner of your eye quietly as he finally said aloud what you had been pondering. I wish I could have go in. The water? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. You're gonna be able to do it soon. Cove only sighed in response. Apparently soon wasn't soon enough. It's so pretty, the ocean. And huge. There could be anything out there, like mermaids. Yeah. Swimming might be fun if we could. I'm fine here on land. One or two. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, pick. It's not like there's anything we can do about it. Obviously not interested in hearing much more about your input on the situation, Cove turned back to the water. But as he looked away, something about Shiloh's slow, careful movements caught his eye. Hey, are you building a sandcastle? Sort of. I was only playing around while you guys were talking. I'm listening. Maybe I could too. I've only made big piles before. It's really nothing special. I'm sure you'll be good at it right away. Well, how do you do it then? Shiloh's cheeks lit up. You could tell he was a little bit uncomfortable to have Cove's expedient stare on him. I'll play too. I love making sandcastles. He put his hands back to his seashells and sand and nodded. I don't do it a lot. Here's how I like to get a house started. Shiloh, focusing more intently than you'd ever seen him, guided Cove through his process. You happily used your own method. It didn't take long for the three of you to each have humble structures prepared. That's all, kind of. You can do anything now, like make it bigger and add some seashells. Carve a pretty pattern. I bet you'll have great ideas.
Okay.
I'm gonna make it bigger. Mine's gonna be a real castle. Cool. This is gonna be a house. Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decided to make a mansion. I'm gonna be different. We're all gonna have unique things. Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decided to design a mansion. The better part of the next hour was spent focusing on your work. The boys were the same. Even Shiloh didn't sneak as many peeks at everyone else as he usually did. You finished shaping before either of them did, glancing up at what you'd built. It seemed you got done so fast, they already searched around for extra decorations. Shiloh had grabbed most of the really interesting stuff, and Cove had a lot of shells, but there were still options. The first thing you reached for was... Oh, blue seashell or a green piece of sea glass. I want the sea glass. It was the best fit for your mansion, you decided. It was see-through and sparkly, so you put it in a funny place, where it'd take a second look to see it. Pleased with your result, you finally took a proper look around that wasn't focused on the sand itself. Both Cove and Shiloh seemed super immersed still. You knew you could probably sneak a peek at either one's work. You checked out Cove's sandcastle. The castle Cove built looked surprisingly tidy, especially for someone in a cast. He must have worked really hard. He wasn't even finished digging the huge gaping moat in front, but it was already enormous. You got a sense from the enthusiasm he was digging with the other that the doctor was probably going to find a bunch of sand when he finally removed the pink plaster. The silence was then broken. "What's on top of yours, Shiloh?" You peeked closer and discovered something shiny sticking out of Shiloh's sand chimney. "Oh, it's just a gum wrapper. It looks like smoke."
Neat.
It's good. That's smart." "Yeah, I didn't think of that." "You really know a lot about this." Shiloh smiled without a word. And that was it. That for the current topic. "Blue, can I see what you did?" "Sure." He scooted a bit nearer and began surveying your work. All you really knew about mansions was that they were supposed to be big, and you'd gone really big. It was the size of the country club that Lizzie played golf at, compared to Cove and Shiloh's buildings, probably even bigger. Shiloh quickly jumped in the new conversation. "Hey Blue, what did you do?" "This is my mansion." "It looks great, your house is so big." "I guess mansions, huh? Is being a house bad?"
No.
"No, but we each made our own place. Nobody is the same." "I think we are." Cove raised an eyebrow at that. "If something is the only one of that thing, that makes it special." "Yeah, for sandcastles and stuff. People too. My dad always says how everybody is their own man, a real individual." "I don't think I'm very special." God! I hate that button does that.
Why?
"Why not? Nobody else is you." Shiloh simply shook his head. "I'm not different." A beat passed between the two. Cove then looked down at his own work again. "Okay." He didn't seem to be bothered leaving the disagreement hanging there. Cove had other things on his mind. "My dad tried to get me to make sandcastles the first time we came to this beach. I didn't want to." Cove trailed off. Again, there was another moment of silence. Shiloh shifted and opened his mouth to say something, but Cove spoke up before he could. You didn't think he noticed that Shiloh was going to talk. "Hey, do you know what happened when your moms met my dad, Blue?" You waited to see if Shiloh would say what he wanted to, but when he didn't, you considered Cove's question. "I wasn't there. They didn't tell me. I just remembered what happened when I met your dad." Mr. Holden had been a weird stranger then. Well, he was still kind of strange. No other parent acted like him, but you knew him better at this point. Now that you thought about it, it made a lot of sense that Cove's dad talked to him about people being unique. You were pulled from your thoughts when Cove continued. Oh, well, I was there. I don't think my mom has met your dad." "Yeah, I'm pretty sure she hasn't. Blue's parents and my dad met the same day I met her. I'm gonna say what happened." Shiloh frowned to himself, ducking his head. His hat cast a shadow over his face. You could still tell he was upset at not being included in Cove's choice of topic. That was kind of boring for him, though giving people their own turn to say the things they wanted was important too. "I think Shiloh wants to talk to." "Huh? We're talking, just not right now. I'm talking to you. He can listen." Shiloh's expression barely flickered at the words. He still looked put out. Cove continued like the interruption hadn't happened. He was determined to tell the tale. "When we moved here, I didn't bring a lot of stuff with us. Only some stuff that would fit in Dad's car. We didn't even get a moving truck. I sat there while Dad brought it all inside. I didn't want to get out because I knew Dad would make me look around the new house, and I didn't really want to do that." His lips twisted into a frown as he recalled that. "Then I saw your moms. They were in a car too, stopped at your house. I guess they were coming back from somewhere. My dad noticed, he waved his hand and went over to the front of the house where he started talking to them. I don't know what they said, I couldn't hear it. But he couldn't see me anymore since he was looking the other way. So I opened the car door and left. I wanted to get away. I wanted to be behind the houses. I found those hills there, the ones where we met for the first time." Cove nodded then stared at you. You stared back. He didn't go on to say anything more. "Are you gonna finish your story?" Cove's brow wrinkled like he didn't understand why you were surprised.
Huh?
"That's all that happened." That was a pretty bad story. You gotta get better at telling stories. You gotta get better at telling stories. Cove didn't seem to accept the critique whatsoever. But that's how our parents met. I didn't make the story up. True stories can be good. That isn't the problem. Shiloh's mouth twisted into a scowl of disbelief, but he said nothing. Why'd you bring that up anyway? There was a slight shrug of Cove's shoulders.
Well,
I was thinking about it because of the sandcastle. It made me remember when I moved here. Dad showed me the beach first when we went back to the car to unpack. He was really excited about it for some reason. Cove's brow furrowed a little more as he quietly raked his hand through the sand. I get it. You thought maybe Mr. Holden wasn't that excited about the beach and was instead hoping Cove might be. But the line of conversation had come to an end. Even Cove was done with it. Some other topic had popped into his head. Shiloh, fidgeting uncomfortably in the sand, had made Cove aware of his presence again. They looked at each other and you could only wonder what this might be about. Hey, Shiloh. Yeah? Why are you always turning so red, even when nothing is happening? Clearly startled, he jerked back. Neither you or Shiloh had expected that to be how he got included in the conversation again. I didn't expect that! What the hell, Cove? I don't know. I guess... Okay, it's kinda... God damn it. For people not wondering, the right mouse click is what keeps popping that up, and I don't know. Can I configure that out? I'll figure out if I can. Hold on. Configure. Nope, doesn't let me configure that button. Ugh. I will figure out how not to do that. Okay, it's kind of weird. Shiloh's eyes were wide with embarrassment, his lips twitched, and he was blushing harder than before. Maybe it wasn't only this. Perhaps it was simply the last straw, but it was a big deal to Shiloh. A huge deal. He didn't look sad. He seemed almost panicked. You weren't sure if he was about to cry or run away or what, but you soon got your answer. Why do you wear your glasses? Most kids don't wear glasses and nobody is named Cove.
who asked you to come?
It was probably just your dad bugging Blue's family some more because you didn't have anyone else who'd ever play with you. Oh, Shiloh! Don't bring that into the conversation! Man, like, wow, Shiloh! Shiloh! Cove blinked. The tension on the beach was suddenly uncomfortable in a way you didn't know how to laugh off. It seemed like the kind of thing he'd get upset about, though you hadn't ever known what kind of thing would bother Shiloh. I'm sorry. Me too. I was just wondering. Are we gonna build more? Blah, blah. You picked up some of the sand and turned it over in your hands. There didn't seem to be much you could do to stop the fight, and you weren't sure what to do with yourself. Cove looked over at what you were doing and started building his own set of walls. Shiloh took a breath before kneeling back down to his own patch of sand. It seemed that both decided to try playing again. You were glad for that. You all went back to making more sand buildings, but the whole mood had changed. Shiloh's cheeriness was clearly gone, and Cove had looked as confused as ever about why the other boy had blown up. The air stayed uncomfortable the rest of the afternoon, right up to the moment Shiloh's mom appeared at the beach to take him home. Cove and Shiloh had mostly followed your lead, barely said a word. His mom standing behind him. Even Shiloh's goodbye had been quiet, friendly, cheerful, but noticeably quiet. It's gonna be like an hour-long episode because I wanted to do 2 of these. But with Shiloh gone and the sun going down, you knew it was time for you and Cove to head to your own houses. The 2 of you trailed out of the park together towards the neighborhood. The walk home was quiet. You passed by familiar landmarks, shoes thumping against the sidewalk in on near-perfect unison. Cove was clearly caught up in thinking about something. You asked Cove what he's thinking. Something was definitely up, so you chose to reach out to him and ask. Hey Cove, is everything okay? You're making a funny face. Oh, I was just wondering. Cove fell silent again for a few more seconds, then sighed. Why'd Shiloh act like that when I said he was red a lot? Embarrassed, but I didn't say anything that bad. It might have upset him anyway. I guess I can get it, why he would do that. Sometimes I get really mad too. Despite seemingly coming to a conclusion, Cove's mood was still sour. Hey, Blue, was Shiloh telling the truth? Huh? His gaze left yours as he dug the sole of his shoe into the ground. He looked oddly vulnerable for a second. Does my dad make you hang out with me? I know he talks to your moms about that a lot. An uncomfortable weight settled in your chest at the question. You liked spending time with Cove. You didn't even have to think hard about it. You knew you did. But you couldn't help feeling guilty. Cove still didn't know what happened when you first met Mr. Holden. Well, I'm gonna go with nobody's making me spend time with you, because obviously, Cove, I'm spending time with you no matter what. But also, I didn't take the money that your dad offered me, so, I'm very positive my choice is gonna be nobody's making me spend time with you. But I also feel like this is like a great moment to like break him down. But he's my friend. Oh, what do I do? Nobody's making me spend time with you. Cove's shoulders relaxed. You hadn't even noticed that he had tensed up. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Anyway, I didn't think you were pretending. I just wanted to make sure it was okay is all.
Thanks.
Thanks for telling me. Your throat tightened. It was hard to meet Cove's earnest gaze again. Keeping secrets was hard. You're welcome. By now, the two of you were on the sidewalk near your houses. It was time to part ways. You hugged Cove goodbye. You stepped forward and wrapped your arms around him tightly. You turned your head, resting your cheek on his shoulder. Cove stood there awkwardly with his hands at his side. He wasn't able to return the hug, but you didn't get the impression he was unhappy about it. You were pretty sure it was the opposite. Bye, Cove. See you tomorrow. Yeah, bye, Blue. You pulled away, then jogged towards your house. When you looked back, you saw Cove making his way back home too. As he felt your eyes on him, he turned around and waved. You did too. You still felt a little unsure with what you were supposed to do about the deal Cove's dad had offered. You didn't want to say something bad or something you shouldn't. You had no idea how Cove would take it either. Would it be terrible if it made him feel bad? What if he didn't want to play with you anymore? You might change your mind sometime, but there was always tomorrow after all. But for now, it was definitely something you'd keep to yourself. With a final look, you went inside your house. And that is gonna be where we end this episode of Our Life Beginning and Always. Thank you all so much for joining me as I continue playing this story and making our own little Cove. This episode was a little longer than I wanted it to. I'm trying to keep these to 30 minutes. But obviously this one went on just a tad bit too long. I think the sleepover one was just so long. I might have to like make all the DLC ones their own separate episodes. We'll see next time if that continues. But obviously, I'm gonna just end this episode here. Thanks for joining me, and I will catch you all on the flip side. Technically, the next episode as well, but both those things. Bye, guys.